Hi guys, today you're in for a treat. As I'm sure you're aware, last week Rajang came and blessed us with a slew of new weapons with crazy potential. And it is for that reason that we are going to be talking about the Rajang Destroyer heavy bowgun. Before you click off, hear me out. I'm sure by now you've seen a lot of builds online about the weapon. It seems to be the new meta heavy bowgun for the sticky and cluster playstyle. But that's not what we're going to be using it for today. This gun is not only good for stickies and clusters, but it's also the new best clutch claw heavy bowgun option. Don't be confused, you heard me right. For a while now we all thought it was the King Black Diablo's heavy bowgun for its high raw, or even the new Char heavy bowgun because of its neutral affinity it offers, on top of both being wyvernsnipe heavy bowguns. And the Rajang Destroyer isn't even a wyvernsnipe type heavy bowgun. However, that's a good thing. I use the natural principle for the clutch claw attack that we use for the special ammo types. If you guys didn't know, wyverheart special ammo always had the capacity to outdamage the wyvernsnipe, so that much be true for the clutch claw attack, right? Right. Now let's try a small demonstration. In front of you is the build I've concocted for the Rajang Wyvernheart Clutch Claw playstyle. I'll explain some of my choices later, but what we're going to do is give the bowgun a handicap by taking off the peak performance and see if it's still able to outclass the other bowgun options we currently have. Well, would you look at that, even with the handicap the gun is still able to perform well over our old choices as 982 damage. You may be thinking to yourself, wow, just 982 damage, but you have to remember that's still a whole 102 damage difference without even peak performance or other buffs. This also confirms that the Wyvernheart Clutch Claw attack is also superior to the wyvernsnipe playstyle. Okay, now that we've got some of the basic testing out of the way, it's time I explain the choices for my build through a demonstration. So sadly the crit draw skill doesn't pair well with the Wyvernheart Clutch Claw gimmick. The moment the hunter goes into the rapid fire animation, only the first attack gets the 100% affinity of crit draw, the rest of it doesn't, despite all being part of the same attack, so that makes the crit draw skill useless. But don't despair, it just means that we have to build our own affinity in crit. You may also be looking at the Frostcraft bar as well, only the first hit gets the 30% buff, but it's essential to the playstyle. But don't worry, at least the Wyvernheart animation doesn't take up the bar, and it still leaves more than enough Frostcraft bar to add damage to the clutch claw attack. Maybe not 30%, but something. So how do we go about making our own affinity for the weapon? The typical ways: put as much critical eye in our build as possible and augment the weapon with affinity. If you're going to be using peak performance, I would recommend the health augment to maintain it. However, the playstyle is very reckless and you could be taking a lot of chip damage. Not to mention the health regain on Wyvernheart is insane. But if you want to go double affinity or even attack augment, feel free. The final build I used has peak performance, but I go back between peak performance and agitator. When the monster's enraged, you only lose about 6 attack over peak performance, but at least you get the 7% affinity or more depending on your decorations. Sadly I don't have any double agitator decorations, so I went the damage route, but go with agitator if you have the decorations, since crit chance is so important for the build. The more affinity you have, the higher chance you have to make all your tick damage from the clutch claw attack grit and give you that 1000 plus damage. Now that we have an established build, it's time to test out the damage. We've ate an attack up large, taken a mega demon drug, might seed, and used demon powder. We're also going to use the affinity booster as a base to increase our crit chance. Now let's see what kind of damage we're able to get at 85% affinity. 1256 damage. That's a huge jump from the old Black Diablo's King Wyvernsnipe, and it can still go higher than that. We still haven't even used our evasion mantle, and all of the tickets didn't exactly all crit. I won't lie, the damage for this build is pretty luck based, as sometimes you're hoping for all the ticks damage leading up to the final hit to all crit, and that is why affinity for the build is very important. So if you're able to spec any, and make sure you do so, it still doesn't change the fact that the Rajang heavy bowgun is a huge upgrade for the playstyle. Since we've now established the playstyle, perfect build, and what you need to make it work. I thought it was important to mention other options you may have if you don't have access to the Rajang heavy bowgun. A close second would be the Nerd heavy bowgun with its neutral affinity but slightly lower raw attack. But what I love about this playstyle is that it basically lets you somewhat spam wyverheart attacks in a way, and the build can also double as a wyverheart setup. But the difference between the two builds will vary depending on what your playstyle. The Nerd wyverheart has better deviation than Rajang's, but you'll have to add more attack into it for it to match Rajang's damage output, so you may have to give up a special ammo boost decoration if you have it. But at the same time, the Nerd heavy bowgun has neutral affinity, which means you don't have to build too much for affinity for the clutch attacks, which may give you better consistency over Rajang's. But again, your choice. You can even choose not to even use the wyverheart and just use the power barrel for more staggers. As for what mantles and equipment to use with the setup, is pretty much the standard stuff: affinity booster, temporal mantle, evasion, and impact. Impact mantle with the wyverheart or even the clutch claw attack is just disgusting. But there you have it guys, that's the guide portion of the video. Hope it was interesting and informative for you to watch. Stay tuned for the run at the end showcasing how the playstyle works. But thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Stay classy hunters and remember to hunt with style.